I'm having issues with my phone and storage, so I'm continuing this discussion on tarot archetypes on my laptop. So what I was saying was that I've always been the fool in a very literal sense, not in a not even in a metaphorical sense, like literally the fool, as in an idiot, in the sense that society would just look at me and go, we're worthless in a sense, because I was just just unable to be part of that system. Just not either I had to die, like literally, this is what I felt at the time, certainly, or I had to transcend. Those were my options: suicide or transcend. So I guess I began to transcend, but not in any not with any kind of knowing what was happening. Just I began to change. Let's say I began to find my childlike self again, which had been so lost in all of that nonsense. What for me was nonsense. It wasn't right for me, is what I'm saying. And so I was the fool, and kind of continued to be in a very obvious way. So I would just spend all my money and just doing what I wanted to do. Being silly, going out, just spending all of my money to the point where I just never had any money because I've just spent it. I've never sort of done the sensible thing. Why don't you save your money and then you can keep this percentage aside, and trying to grow and just trying to, like, no, I've just been purely like, oh, I've had some money. I'm gonna go like boom, literally. And, all the while, the voice in my head is going, this is wrong, this isn't the right way to behave, listen to your superiors, you're being stupid. But when you're dumb, let's say, when you're stupid like that for so long, you kind of develop a massive sense of faith, because you realize that you look around and you're like, man, I'm a really happy guy. And a lot of the people that I know or interact with do the right thing. They do the right thing, and they have lots of money, and they've saved up, and they have nice apartments, and but they're not happy. So you kind of think, well, that's odd. I must be doing something right. And eventually, you just develop a real sense of faith in life, faith in your own spontaneity, faith in your own intuition, regardless of where it's taking you. Um, because you realize that, man, I've been broke for years now. Like, nothing's changed. Like, right now, at this minute, I have I have enough money to pay my rent this month, and then I have like £160 or thereabouts. And that's just me. Like, I just don't seem to be able. I don't seem to be able to not be me, whatever that means. Um, and when you've been like that for a long time, I suppose you kind of give up trying to be something else. Partly because it's fucking exhausting. This constant sense of becoming, trying to be what you're not. Um, and partly because you kind of go, well, I'm fine. I've been fine for years. The only reason it would not be fine would be listening to people that are saying it's not fine. Without that, it's demonstrably fine. Like, I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm happy. So what does it matter what my bank account looks like, or what, like, because this has been going on for years. You know what I mean? And it's not. Well, you start to realize in a very obvious way that happiness cannot be found in money, for one thing. If I could snap my fingers and have tons more money, would I do it? 100%. 100%. probably wouldn't be able to keep it. But yeah, so you develop this sense that you start to realize that things do come to you as and when you need them, you know. And so many times I've walked around the park looking for money on the floor, you know, and just kind of going on just to buy, you know, a sandwich or something. And yeah, those moments suck, you know, you're like, oh man, this is ridiculous. But a week later, it's forgotten. You're somewhere else doing something else. The vibe's changed. It's different now. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So the fool's journey, I think, is a journey from unknowing to unknowing, from pure intuition and alignment to apparent misalignment and ego confusion. Um, you've kind of been pulled, you've been sucked in to the idea that you are no longer yourself, and then the agitation that can, the turmoil that can create is the key back to unknowing. So intuition is a funny thing, and I guess it's what we suppress, what we're driven to suppress by society, you know, the matrix, whatever the boundaries, believing in them. We suppress our innate authenticity, our innate playfulness, peace. And when we begin to find that again, it's just fascinating how that plays out. Because this intuition, which perhaps you could say Kundalini itself is intuition and coming out in sometimes in a very extreme form, perhaps because it's been repressed so long. It's been punching, trying to come up like a volcano, and you're repressing and you're repressing. And when you finally go, fuck it, you can just go babushka, you know, because fuck, man, you know, because you get sick of that shit. So initially, the intuition is very subtle. Perhaps you develop an interest in tarot. Well, you know, you're suddenly interested in imagery, archetypes, sound healing. You just have these little intuitions, little hunches. Like I saw a speaker online. I really want to go and I don't know why, but I want to go and see that guy live. You know, there's something about him. I don't know anything about awakening, spirituality, non-duality, but hey, here's a dude. I've not seen anyone talk like that before. He seems like really honest and really grounded. I want to go and talk to that guy. And before you know it, your intuition is no longer a series of hunches or, you know, it's literally like a wind that is grabbing you by the collar and pushing you in this direction and in that direction to the point where you move out the way completely. And I suppose that's when non-duality is clear, is then that there isn't any trace of that self left. Yeah, and that journey back is just different for everyone. It really is very different for everyone. Um, but it will be in some way magical, synchronistic, um, surprising. uh, yeah. So all the archetypes in tarot the hangman, the high priestess. Um, they're all the fool in disguise. They're the fool in his various disguises. The fool at play. The fool wearing different masks. And the relief is in not knowing, not counterintuitively. The world is, whether it knows it or not, obsessed with knowing, with figuring it out, with being in control, being on top. But that's exhausting, you know, seeking power and control. And we all do it in, so, the big businessman, the heads of the big companies doing that, but we do it as well in a very subtle way. We're seeking to know, to control. It's the sort of default mode network that just keeps running on survival mode. Um, but it's exhausting. I mean, I suppose thankfully it's exhausting because otherwise it would just keep going. But it is exhausting, and when you've had enough, you've had enough, and you'll know when that is. And you could say, well, I want to have had enough. I want freedom. I want. But in some sense, if you haven't had enough, you haven't had enough yet. You're still buying into, subconsciously, you're still buying into the idea that you're going to know something, you're going to get something, you're going to achieve something. Yeah, and I suppose you can interpret what's happening, what seems to be happening in a myriad of ways. You could say it's this way or it's that way. Um, but no, none of those interpretations could ever be what it is, because there isn't an is. But it's fun to interpret. I mean, I do it all the time. You know, what is reality? How does it work? Maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. I embrace that fully. I've always been a psychonaut, like trying to just whoa, what the fuck, the levels and the woo, wah, wah. That's all awesome. There's no need for that to go. But perhaps you need to take it seriously or to find something solid in there, the way it is, the ultimate reality. Perhaps that can collapse into just it not mattering, really. And then you end up just staring at the tree, which is what I'm doing now, with no idea why it's so beautiful. And I can't stress enough just how lazy I am as a person, how little meditation I've done, how I've never done any shadow work. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do that. If stuff comes up, then it comes up, and I go, oh, maybe that's shadow work, maybe that's what's happening, but there's no sense that I'm trying to. I don't know how to do that. So this isn't. This is, I think, just pure laziness. This is just giving up. This is like, oh fuck it, man. This is what that's what awakening is. It's just like, fuck it, fuck it. But it's not that I don't recommend stuff. You know, I love yoga. It's funny now that yoga happened spontaneously because when I discovered yoga very late in life, never too late, I was like, I love this. This is me. I love this. So it's not that I'm saying there shouldn't be breath work and meditation. In fact, I think there should, if you're following your foolish intuition. Once again, if it's what's happening, not because someone told it to you, not because you think you need to become, but because fuck yeah, meditation. So I think the people that meditated for years and then became enlightened, they did that because they wanted to do that. They weren't like, oh man, I gotta do my meditation. Like really, I want to be out in the sun, but spirituality, you gotta. If you don't do it, it's not gonna happen, man. That was never the case here. That attitude just did not resonate at all. So I did listen to Eckhart Tolle, and I did focus on my breath and take my attention out of my mind and yada yada yada. But that was because I loved it. So just my advice always just goes back to do what you love, because when you do what you love, you're in alignment. You can't not be if it's genuine love, whether that's painting, music, economics, whatever. Numbers, math. You know when you're engaged in something that you love. So more of that, and less than the other. It's my only advice. Okay, all right. Well, that's it really.